In this lesson, we'll learn how to create hyperlinks within our interactive InDesign documents. Alright, so we just wrapped up learning about bookmarks and text anchors. Now at this point I'm ready to go ahead and move on to sort of the next logical place when it comes to interactive documents, and that's hyperlinks. Now, when you think about a hyperlink, probably 9 out of 10 people are going to immediately think about a website's URL address. But really, in InDesign here, hyperlinks can be so much more, and you're going to see that here by the end of this lesson. So let's go ahead and jump over to the hyperlinks panel here. It looks like a little ABC with a hand over it, and you'll notice this panel is divided into two halves: hyperlinks and cross-references. Now, we're not going to get into cross-references in this course. If you want to learn about cross-references, go ahead and check out our Assembling and Working with Long Documents in InDesign CS5 course. In Lesson 14 of that course, we actually use cross-references to create endnotes for that particular project. So that's another form of interactivity, but it's really related more to longer documents. It's not really fitting for this particular project. So let's go ahead and we'll focus on hyperlinks in this lesson. So when it comes to hyperlinks, there's really two types of data related to a hyperlink. We have source data and we have destination data. Let me go ahead and show you an example here. Let's jump over here to page 4 and we'll zoom in here on the sidebar information. And you can see here we have some client information. We have Digital Tutors as our client, and we have their website listed here. Now, if we wanted to make this website an interactive hyperlink that could be clicked on, this particular text right here would be the source data. Now, if we wanted that to open the user's browser and go to the Digital Tutors website, that would be the destination data. So with that in mind, there's a couple of different workflows we could use to go about creating hyperlinks. We could manually go through our document, seeking out each little bit of source data here, and create the source and destination data at the same time, or we could just come in and tell InDesign all of the destination data. Let's go ahead and check out that workflow first. Now, in order to do this, we're going to come in the Hyperlinks panel over to this panel flyout menu and choose New Hyperlink Destination. Now, when this dialog opens up here, we're going to notice that we can choose a type of destination here. We can choose either a page, and you can see here that we can create a destination which would be a page in this document. If we were to do that, we could choose the page number here and the zoom setting. Now, the zoom setting is only going to be related to PDF output. That's going to be ignored for Flash files. So you can see here that the name for the destination is actually being controlled by the page number because of this checkbox. If we uncheck that, we could actually give that destination our own custom name. Now, I'm actually not going to create a page destination just yet. Let's go ahead and drop this down. Notice text anchor is grayed out. We'll come back to that here in just a moment. I'm going to create a URL destination. Now, I'll give it a unique name here. Let's just call it Digital Tutors. And let's go ahead and type in the Digital Tutors website here for the URL. Alright, so we've got our new destination input here. Let's hit OK. Notice nothing changes here. But if we come over to that same panel flyout menu and choose Hyperlink Destination Options, we'll see that destination that we've created here. Now, we could pick out any number of different pieces of source data within our document and point it to the same destination. From this dialog right here, we could actually either delete the destination if we wanted to, or we could edit the destination and come in and change the name. We could change the URL, or we could even change the type of destination it is. I'm going to cancel this for right now, and let's go about creating a new hyperlink here. I'm going to go ahead and select this Digital Tutors text. Notice that when I do, the URL field becomes available to us here in the Hyperlinks panel. Now, we could either create the hyperlink a couple of different ways here. We could actually manually type in the URL here and hit enter, but that would actually create a new destination for us as well as the hyperlink. Now, if we drop this little button down right next to that field, we can actually choose the destination that we've already created. I'm not going to do that either, because what I want to do is I'm going to click the new hyperlink button right down here. And when we click that, notice what pops up here. We get a new hyperlink options dialog. We're going to focus on this top half first. The link to option says shared destination. Now this is probably one of the more confusing things about dealing with hyperlinks here in InDesign. So we've already created this destination, and we want to create multiple pieces of source data that point to the destination. Because of this, we want to choose shared destination here, because what that allows us to do is actually come down here and choose the destination that we've already created. We already created digital space tutors here, and we would select that as our destination. Now, after we click OK and create this hyperlink, let's say we repeat that process for a number of different instances of www.digitaltutors.com. So we've got several pieces of source data pointed at that destination. At that point, if we wanted to come in and make a change to that destination, that change would actually be populated over to each of those hyperlinks that we've created that are linked to it. So that's the advantage of using a shared destination. Really a good habit to get into when you're working with hyperlinks. If we didn't use a shared destination hyperlink, each instance of the Digital Tutors website would be sort of its own one-off hyperlink here, and we'd have to go in and make changes to each and every one of them if we wanted to change, say, the destination. So let's go ahead and bounce down here to the character style portion of this. Now, notice that we can actually apply a character style to this particular hyperlink. So we'll go ahead and check that here, and let's switch this over to URL for the character style. And if we look down below that, we've got some appearance settings. Now, these appearance settings don't relate to how the hyperlink looks in our InDesign file. They relate to how it's going to look in the PDF reader. For example, Adobe Acrobat Reader. This appearance option for type actually gives us the ability to give it a visible or invisible rectangle around it, or we have some highlight options here that we can use. Now, my preference when creating hyperlinks is to make them invisible in terms of what the reader is doing to the hyperlinks. I think that that can actually interfere with your design some of the time, so I tend to just use the invisible rectangle and none here so that we just get the cursor change when we mouse over the hyperlink. Let's go ahead and hit OK on that here. And when we do, notice the Digital Tutors changes colors. That's because the character style actually changed the color of it. Now, we've also got a new hyperlink in the Hyperlinks panel over here. If we ever wanted to make changes to that particular hyperlink, all we need to do is double click on it here. And you can see we come right back to that same dialog here. So I'm going to cancel that out. And we've officially created our very first hyperlink. Now, there's a couple of buttons down here at the bottom. This arrow on the left is going to take us to the source data for a selected hyperlink here. If we click that, it'll highlight that source data right in front of us. Now, if I go ahead and hit this arrow on the right, it's going to take us to the destination data. Now, being that that's the Digital Tutors website, if I click that, it's actually going to open my web browser and take us to the Digital Tutors website here. So that's one way we can navigate to source and destination data here in the Hyperlinks panel. I tell you what, let's go ahead and create some more hyperlinks. Now, if we go over here to page 5, and let's fit that to the page, we can see another sidebar over here. I bet you that has a website in it. And it does. It's got the exact same one. Let's go ahead and select that text here again. Let's create a new hyperlink. But instead of using a shared destination hyperlink, let's go ahead and jump up here to URL. Now notice when I select URL, the default is to create a shared destination hyperlink. But remember, we already have a destination created for that hyperlink, so we want to use this shared destination option. If we use the URL option with this checked, it's actually going to create a new destination for us based on what we input here. Now, if we were to uncheck that box and create a new hyperlink with this current setting, then we're going to create that one-off hyperlink that's not going to be linked to a destination. So that's what I was warning you about. This is going to be our default setting here. Now, notice there's some other options here besides URL. We could come in and choose File, and we could actually tell this hyperlink that when it's clicked, we want it to open a file by browsing to it with this button here. Now, if that's a file from another application, keep in mind that that file is going to open in its native application. It's not going to try and open in the reader. We could come in here and select an email address, which that's not an email address we've got selected. We'll look at that one here in just a moment. Or we could select a page. Now, we looked at creating page destinations, but we didn't actually create any. We could create a hyperlink to a page using the link to page option. Now, we also saw text anchor as an option when we were creating destinations, but it was grayed out. Notice here that if we create a link to a text anchor, we have this text anchor drop down right here, and it says none right now. We don't have any. Let's go ahead and cancel out of that dialog here, and let's go ahead and select some text. We'll go ahead and let's just select the word warrior, or the words the warrior within here. If we were to create a new destination with text selected, notice that it defaults to text anchor, and then the warrior within is put in that name field for us. Let's go ahead and hit OK on that here, and we'll come back in and select digitaltutors.com again and create a new hyperlink. And notice what happens. It's seeing that we have a text anchor here. Actually, I believe that that's where we left off when we had this dialog open previously, but we have now the warrior within as a text anchor that we could select. So we can actually create text anchors as destinations for our hyperlinks. So I'm actually going to not do that. Let's go ahead and select shared destination. We'll again use our digital tutors destination with the URL character style, and we'll hit OK. You can see that that's been applied here. Let's go up and create a little different type of hyperlink now. We'll go up to page 2, and if we zoom in here, we'll notice that there is an email address here in the footer of this introduction letter. Let's go ahead and select that here. Now, we haven't created a destination for that, but we could do that here by just clicking the new hyperlink button, changing this over to email. Now, there's a couple of options here for the email address. We could tell InDesign to send this email to johndoe@email.com, and we could tell InDesign that every time that link is clicked, when it brings up your default email application, put in a subject line, and I'll just say inquiry. Now again, we have the shared destination, shared hyperlink destination as a default here. Now this is going to again create a destination for us when this box is checked. I'll go ahead and do that, but for the character style, let's change this over to email. And when we click OK on that, you can see here that that character style for email actually changes the color to blue. So we've created both URL-based hyperlinks, and now we've created an email-based hyperlink. Now we've seen also how we could create hyperlinks within the same document here to page destinations, and we've also seen how we could create a hyperlink to a page destination within another document simply by browsing to it. Now, we've been selecting text so far, but we can actually create a hyperlink with no text selected at all. We could select, say, a frame. Let's just select this signature frame right here. You can see that's text in its own frame. Let me undo that. And we could actually use a frame as source data for a hyperlink as well. I tell you what, let's do. Let's go in and really quickly, we'll create a page destination here. Let's go ahead and say new hyperlink destination. Let's create a page destination to page 10. And again, for the zoom setting, we're going to say fit to window. And that's going to be for PDF only here. So we'll say OK to that. And with this text selected here, or rather this text frame selected, let's create a new hyperlink. We'll go to shared destination. We'll choose our page 10, fit in window. And notice that the character style is grayed out for this. That's okay, we don't need that. We'll go ahead and hit OK on that. And notice we get yet another hyperlink here. Now if we go ahead and click the Go to Destination arrow down here, it's actually going to take us to page 10 of our current document. So yet another kind of hyperlink we can create here that actually links to a destination within the same document. Now I want to give you one little bit of warning when you're creating hyperlinks that are using frames as source data. Let's come up here to page 1 and we'll look at a little different type of frame. You can see these frames that have these images in them are skewed and they're really close together. Let's say, for example, that we had the idea that we wanted to create a hyperlink for each one of these frames so that when the frame is clicked, it would send the user to the page in our document that's related to that image. For this one, it's actually page 9. If we come down here and click on it, you can see this is sort of an article about that particular project. So if we wanted to do that, We would need to be careful in this particular case because the hyperlinks that are created don't actually use the frame for, in this case, for this image. What they actually use is the bounding box for the frame, and we can see that visible here. So if we created a clickable area in the shape of this frame's bounding box, and we wanted to do the same thing for these frames next to it, well, we've got a problem. They overlap here. So we're going to be creating some unpredictable clickable areas because these bounding boxes overlap. Let me go ahead and show you what that looks like here in a PDF. I've gone ahead and exported one of those, and I've actually given it a yellow outline in those appearance options we looked at. So you can see here that in this PDF, if I mouse over this, it's actually going to give me the little the hand cursor saying that it's a link, but there's no change. So I could click here and go to that particular page in my document. But if I wanted to click on this second image here and go to that page, it's actually going to take me to the same page because of that overlapping bounding box. So be careful when you're creating hyperlinks using a frame as source data. Again, it's going to inherit the shape of the frame's bounding box. And in this case, it would really produce some problems as far as navigating throughout our document. All right, great. So we've learned in this lesson how to create a variety of different types of hyperlinks here in our interactive InDesign document. I'll go ahead and create a few more hyperlinks in between lessons, but in the next lesson, I want to go ahead and move on to really one of the most important features that is related to the interactive features in InDesign, which is the process of creating buttons.